G'day jabronis, it is the Verd, back with you again. Welcome here to our week 3 game of the NPL, the Tampa Frogadiers, up against the Cincinnati Slifer Reds and my good friend Daniki. Gonna be a really interesting game in this one because obviously we are 0-2, not off to a great start to the season, so looking to really rebound as much as we can, but Dan, he's had an interesting run so far. First game against Adam was very contentious because of the hacks and stuff. I still think Adam threw at the end, but it's whatever. Dan did what he had to do to win, and the next game against Danza, he had a chance to win, but just didn't capitalise on it. So he's had a very up and down season. We've had a very up and down season here at the Frogadiers, up against two very good opponents, and then another very good one here today. So games play really well. As you saw from the team builder, I literally just built this team, went with my gut, and I went into this game. And sometimes I think that's okay. I think for me it was just that my normal process of building everything, going through all these mocks and all that jazz just didn't work in the first 2 weeks, and I just felt like maybe it'd be nice to mix it up a bit and kind of just go with whatever I can come up with first, and see how well it goes in the actual game. So as far as what Dan brought, I was very surprised not to see either Hooper Unbound or Manaphy on team matchup. I understand that obviously I had things like a Rifleman and whatnot, but I did feel that those mons, you could add other things onto the team to complement them, like the combination of Manaphy plus Kabutops was just really strong in this game. But I can kind of understand Gerda. I assume it's basically designed in there to deal with my Hydreigon. I guess he didn't really have a better check to Hydreigon maybe in that situation. And Frostlass is an interesting one too. I can understand it because of its speed, because my speed tiers are quite slow. Everything else seemed pretty straightforward. My main aim, I guess, in this matchup was to prevent Zygarde really from going in. Zygarde to me was the biggest threat on Dan's team, 100%. So obviously I've got a lot of ways to deal with it. I just wanted to try and limit the amount of setup that it could do, and just kind of go from there. So we're going to get into the game here. If my computer can stop lagging, that'd be great. A little bit of lag, which is annoying. So I lead off with Hydra because I'm Scarfed, he leads off with Frostlass. I was tempted to Dark Pulse turn 1 because I felt like, knowing Dan, his best play would just be to potentially Beam, and I knew Beam wouldn't be able to knock me out, and I could just go for Pulse into another Pulse to kill. But at the same time, I thought maybe this would be the situation where Dan would preserve a potential Sash on Frostlass and go out to Gerda, and in that situation it's much safer just going for the free U-turn, because then if Gerda comes in, I could just go into Diancie freely, get off my Mega, and go to town. So because of that, I felt U-turn was a better play, but he does stay in. I am going to assume that an Ice Beam's coming here, so I'm going to go into Marini, and Ice Beam does 15%. That is pitiful damage to my Marini, and I see this as a good opportunity to potentially get up some Toxic Spikes. If he has Taunt, then it's okay. I do still have my Diancie that can come in, and also have a very bulky Circuitry that can come in too, but he doesn't go for Taunt, he goes for Spikes, and that's perfect for me. I don't really mind if he sets up his Spikes. On this turn, I think he potentially makes... it was a turn before. A lot of people were saying afterwards it was contentiously a misplay of him not going hard into Zygarde against my Marini. And I can understand that it might have been misplay, but at the same time, I can also understand why Dan didn't want to do it, because the thing is, if my Marini had Toxic instead of Toxic Spikes, his Zygarde spread I think was a sub-coil or sub-DD set, and especially when you're running substitute sets, the last thing you want to do is get statused. So it was a 50-50 there for Dan. Was he predicting me to want to go for a regular Toxic and get the poison off that way, or was he predicting the T-Spikes? And then, if he did swap into Zygarde, it would have been a bit of an issue. Like, for sure, I would have had to go Gliscor and go to a bit of damage control, but at the same time, if he wasn't able to DD up twice, then Hydra would always be able to outspeed it and could always just revenge it. So I feel like I would have been able to manage it a bit better, but luckily for me, he doesn't actually choose to do that, and I'm actually able to get up 2 layers of T-Spikes, which is awesome. Shadow Ball does nothing. I go for free recovery here too as Gerda comes in. I make a pretty wild prediction of going Diancie, predicting the knockoff. This was definitely a risk, because if Dan had Earthquake on his Gerda, which I believe Gerda can learn, I'm not 100% sure, I know Conk can get it, but if he had that coverage move, that could have been really bad for me. But I felt, looking at the way that his team was orientated, especially with the Frostlass, the Scizor, and mainly the Kabutops, I felt that knockoff was something that he really needed to go for there, to remove the remove the Marini from the game. Knockoff there does nothing though, so I'm assuming this is a very bulky Eviolite variant. What I can just do though is freely Mega Up and click Moonblast. His only resist is a Sizzle, which doesn't always want to come in. Now this turn, basically I felt like I was in a really good position already to potentially win the game. Because when it came to Sizzle, I knew that if it Mega Evolved and went for Bullet Punch here against my Diancie, then that was fine. I could go into my Xurkitree afterwards and freely get up my Reflect. And then that would allow the potential for Necrozma to just go in, because since he didn't bring a lot of his bulkier mons, it meant that Necrozma can kind of go and put in the work. Like Frostlass had its Sash broken, so it was basically dead. Kabutops could die, Sizzle would just die to Heat Wave. I had coverage for everything else, and with the T-Spikes, they would get slowly worn down. So I could see a potential win con opening, but I also saw and looked at like matchup here, and I said I have two very good resists to Bullet Punch on my team, in Marini and Xurkitree. I also have a very good defensive check to Sizzle, being my Gliscor. So I actually sat there and was like, you know what, I don't actually think he's going to click Bullet Punch, because he could click it and it would kill my Diancie, but if I go out to Xurkitree or Marini, he goes back a step. So I actually predict him to not want to Bullet Punch this turn, and I get that prediction correct, and I knock out his Sizzle. Now, that was a roll, unfortunately, because of the way that my Diancie was designed, as you saw in the team builder, to his Sizzle spread, that only had a 37.5% chance of knocking him out. Now, the thing would have been, Dan told me afterwards he clicked ST on that turn. So, realistically then, I think what I would have done in that situation was contentious, because then what it comes down to if he's SD'd is he going to stay, is he going to click Bullet Punch and knock out my Diancie, or is he going to Roost? Because obviously I can swap out to something like Marini or Xurkitree, take that Bullet Punch, and then he's put in a really tricky position. So for me, I probably, I think I would have had to have gone probably hard Gliscor, because that would have covered both plays. Gliscor would outspeed the Sizzle, can't allow the free Roost. If he does Roost, I can live the +2 Bullet Punch, potentially knock him out. So yeah, if it was up to me, maybe I'd go Gliscor in that situation. I probably would have lost a Mon if the Sizzle had survived and gone for the SD, but at the same time I had enough ways to revenge it afterwards to where it wouldn't have been too detrimental, and Sizzle being that weakened basically meant that Diancie could run Ruck Shot. But very unfortunate for Dan. Very, very unfortunate in that situation. But the Shaman's going to come in. I predict him to want to go for a Seed Flare here, so go into Hydreigon first, as he does connect with a Seed Flare, doesn't get the Speed F drop, and I'm going to go for a U-turn again here. Reason being is I could have stayed and attacked, but being able to go hard into Xurkitree, predicting the D-Gleam was what I really wanted to do, but he actually reveals Synthesis. Now I know he could run Earth Power, but I'm judging from the way he's played this Shaman so far that it could be a bulkier variant, especially with Synthesis on board and not seeing Lifeorb. So I actually think this is a really good time to set up my screens, because now that Sizzle is dead, if I can weaken the Shaman further with Xurkitree, then it's going to be in range, well not with Xurkitree, with the T-Spikes from Marini, it's going to be in range of the Photon Geyser from Necrozma, and if that's the case, then both Shaman and Frostlass will basically just die to Photon Geyser, and then I can just choose between Kabutops and Zygarde which one I want to drop the Z move on. But he's going to Seed Flare here, it does an absolute chunk. Fortunately, don't get the Spadef drop again. I can't remember the exact percentage chance the Seed Flare has, but if he got the Spadef drop there, then he would have probably been able to knock out my Xurkitree on the next turn. I wouldn't have minded that though, because that still would have meant that Necrozma came in and basically just put in the work, but this will mean that I can live another Seed Flare and be able to Volt Switch out. And the reason why I went for Volt Switch over Reflect was that if I went for Reflect that turn, and then in the next turn he could click Synthesis for free, and I don't really have a way to damage it, so I'd rather click Volt Switch there, knowing that he wants to try and damage me, or even if he clicks Synthesis, I'm getting the chip on the Shaman that I need to allow Necrozma and put in the work. So Shaman's going to take that toxic damage. He is going to go for a Seed Flare again, and he's going to miss, and that's huge, because Necrozma's rock polished up, and now Shaman is definitely in range of anything. I'm just going to click Signal Beam, all that thing straight out, and in comes the Kabutops, and I can't let this thing. I can't. Sitting there looking at Kabutops and Zygarde, and I had to sit on this play for a little bit and say, like, which one would I rather get rid of in this matchup? Like, which one can I just eliminate from the game right now, and looking at my team and the fact that I still had, you know, so many mons in the back, and the fact that even if Zygarde DD'd, Microcosma would outspeed it, it was a no-brainer. Like, Kabutops had to die because that thing would like Rain Dance and then Stone Edge crits, or, you know, Liquidation. There's a lot of things it could have done that could have ruined me, so I wasn't going to take that risk. Knock that. Frostlass comes in, but Heatwave should be able to just straight up OHKO this thing, so Frostlass is dead, so all that's left is the Zygarde, and like I said, there's not really much the Zygarde can actually do to me. I can just go straight up for a Geyser and get off a clean almost half. He's going to Arrows, and that does a good chunk, but not like anything crazy. I'm going to go for another Geyser here, Arrows, but I do live this, and to preserve the 6-0, it's a horrible thing to do, I know, but also kind of a kill for Marini, even though, like, the reason I did that too, I should explain really. Judging on the Arrows damage that was being done to my Necrozma, there was a chance that it could have died to an E-Speed crit, and me being the asshole that I am, and judging on how it was -7 heading into this game, I needed as much differential back as I could, realistically, to get back into this season. So I decided to heart out a Gliscor. Granted, this could have been a horrible play if he decided to rest, but I figured that wasn't what he was bringing. And what this also means, funnily enough, is that Marini just killed a Zygarde. Marini's Toxic Spikes, so Marini actually gets the kill there on the Zygarde, which is crazy. But yeah, really good win. Like, obviously, don't get me wrong, I was pretty buzzing after getting that win, and it definitely puts my season back on track, because now I'm 1-2 with a -1 differential, but it puts me like in the middle of the pack again. Like, instantly after being 0-2, that game just shot me like right back into the middle of the pack, which is massive. But obviously I feel bad for Dan. Like, Dan is a really close friend of mine, and I really do love him, and he was very frustrated after this game. He was very frustrated on the Sizzle turn, where not only was I able to get the roll to kill him, but he also did click Bullet Punch. I definitely feel like he could have made a few different plays that would have lowered the differential for sure, but at the end of the day, you know, he's just in a really tough place right now, so if you guys can give him support in any way that you can, that'd be very much appreciated. But yeah, we are getting the W, and that's pretty good. But I will announce now, there are some transactions that I'm going to be making for the rest of the season. So unfortunately, Marini played its first game and its last game for the Frogadiers. Someone has messaged me on Facebook. I don't need that right now in my life. I have decided to drop a few mons to pick up mons that I feel just better rounded out my team in general. So I have dropped Marini, Ordino, Xurkitree, and Blaziken. And I have picked up Heliolisk, Talonflame, and Hariyama to the team. So really excited to have these guys on the team. I feel that they're just incredibly solid in general. I think that, you know, I'm not going to go into too much detail on all of them. They just kind of filled the roles of my team a bit better and gave me a lot more options. Talonflame has inherited the Z move ability over Blaziken, so Z Flame is going to be pretty cool to use this season. But yeah, basically to summarize, we get a nice W here. We are right back in contention. Next week we have Ace of Base and the Anaheim Altarias. Really big game, because I believe we're both, well, I think he might be 2-1. I can't remember. But definitely for me it's a big game, because if I win it, then I could get back to positive differential after 2 weeks and still be in the hunt. I could still technically go 8-2, which is actually the record that I had. No, I went, was it 7-3 or 8-3 last season? So I could still do just as good as my record last season if I just keep on progressing and winning my games. So after a rough start, we can definitely bounce back from this and get back into contention. So that's what I'm hoping to do. Thank you guys for watching. If you have enjoyed, make sure you like the video, subscribe, all that good shit. You know how this works. I will try and get these up on time more often, but with study and work has been a lot busier lately. It's just difficult to do that sometimes. I'm just like wrecked at the end of the day and can't be bothered recording, but you caught me on a lucky break. So hope you guys have enjoyed. Really good win. I feel really bad for Dan though, but regardless, we take the W, and hopefully we can move on to better things next week. But yeah, this is the Verd, and I'm out this bitch.